Hi, I'm Jack Canfield, and we're very excited to welcome you to Tapping into Ultimate Success. I know you're here because you've made a commitment to your success and to creating fabulous results in every area of your life. And we want to support you by demonstrating techniques that we know are powerful, cutting-edge ways to overcome obstacles, so you shortcut the time and the effort that it takes to skyrocket your results. You know, you may have heard of these techniques before as tapping or meridian tapping, or you may know them as EFT, emotional freedom techniques. You know, I've had a very successful life. You know, with the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, we sold over 500 million books. Then I did a book called The Success Principles, which has now sold over 750,000 books in 17 languages. I conduct workshops all over the world. I was in the movie The Secret and 11 other movies that have happened since then, including the Tapping Solution, which is about tapping. And even with all this success that I've enjoyed, this is one of the most powerful methods I've ever seen to overcome obstacles to success. It's really fascinating and very powerful, and we're glad you're here. Now, Pamela, I want to introduce my partner, Pamela Bruner. Pamela is a success coach. She's an expert in tapping techniques. She built a very successful career as a musician, recorded over 20 albums, and then decided to become a coach. But she struggled to make that coaching business successful. However, once she developed and started using the tapping techniques that we're teaching you today to overcome her fear of sales and marketing, she built her business from $0 to $1 million in just 2 years.
We are delighted to bring this work to you. I want to share with you an illustration of why this work is so important and effective. Now, most motivational work gives you strategies so that you're both educated and inspired to take action. And those strategies are supposed to enable you to take action so you'll get results. For most of us, there's a barrier between knowing the strategy and taking the action. You can think of the barrier as a very high set of mountains. Those mountains are made up of your beliefs, both conscious and unconscious. Taking action on any strategy when you have that barrier in the way is like having to climb over a huge mountain range to get your results. Let me give you a specific example. Let's suppose you need to make a phone call. Maybe you have a business and you need to call on prospective customers. Or maybe you just want to pick up the phone and invite somebody on a date. If you have beliefs like, he'll think I'm being pushy, or I'm so afraid she'll say no, you're going to have a hard time picking up the phone. You'll procrastinate, you'll avoid taking action, you may try to talk yourself out of it. Even if you do finally pick up the phone, you won't be as effective as you could be. You may stammer, you may stutter, you may come with this energy of, I know you don't really want to talk to me, and it's just not effective. It's as though you have to climb over this huge mountain in order to get your results. Now, a lot of motivational work is designed to help you climb those mountains. Let's give you climbing gear. Let's give you ropes and pythons. What if the mountains just went away? That's what tapping into ultimate success can do. In this work, we illustrate how to use the tapping techniques to implement many of the 64 success principles that Jack wrote about in his best-selling book, The Success Principles. Those ideas are so powerful, you'll want to implement them to achieve ultimate success. But they only work if you take action on them. And that's where this work comes in. In addition, a real strength of this book and DVD is its flexibility. You can use this work to implement any success strategy and overcome any obstacle you have to success. You can reduce or remove emotions that may be stopping you, like fear, anger, jealousy, or guilt. You can turn around your doubts and limiting beliefs and create new, empowering thoughts and uplifting emotions. So let's get started. Tapping is a simple, self-administered acupressure technique that can help remove your negative emotions and your disempowering beliefs. It certainly looks a little unusual, and you might be tempted to dismiss it as mere hocus pocus or suggestion. However, less than 200 years ago, it wasn't standard practice for doctors to wash their hands between surgeries because no one understood germs. Now, the first doctor to require the surgeons in his hospital to wash their hands, he was considered a quack. He got results, though. The death rate at his hospital dropped from 30% to less than 2% in 18 months. Yeah. Nowadays, we know that washing your hands is a simple way to prevent the spread of disease. So I imagine that perhaps a few years from now, we're going to have medical devices that can illustrate what we need to tap on. I don't know if it's true, but when we look at it that way, tapping is really just as effective as washing your hands. The most recent studies indicate that tapping interrupts the fear response in the brain. So when you think about something upsetting and tap, your brain gets retrained and restructured. You literally build new neural connections, so you no longer respond with upset, whether it's to a new situation or an old memory. Now, scientific research is adding to our knowledge all the time. What the studies are showing over and over is that tapping is really effective. In fact, some of the most dramatic results have come from working with war veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, that's not a group of people likely to be influenced by hocus pocus.
No, not at all.
Our suggestion, try it for yourself and see the results.
You know, the way it was easy for me to understand tapping is I always think of this metaphor of the dominoes. If you've ever seen these things on television where they'll take a gymnasium in a school and they'll take like 5,000 dominoes and they line them all up like this, and they tap one and all of them just gonna go like this forever. If you take out 4 dominoes anywhere in that line, this one falls down and the whole thing stops. Mm-hmm. And so what I've always experienced in doing this work with this is that it's like you see a stimulus, like a spider, or you think about getting on an airplane, and that's the first domino, and that then goes through a whole bunch of stuff in the body that then produces sweat in your hands, and your breathing's tight, and you're all scared and shaking. And if you can just remove a couple of those dominoes in that little neurological pathway, then what happens is the fear doesn't get activated, or the symptoms of the fear don't get activated. So if you think about tapping in the sense that you know, there's all the medical and scientific and neurological reasons for it working, which, you know, you can learn and study and understand. But for me, just that simple metaphor of, oh, we're just going to break this little computer program that says this, and now we're afraid to pick up the phone. And we just pull those out by doing the tapping, and bam, handled.
I love that. One of the things that we've added to tapping, in addition to what's often taught, is a system for transforming limiting beliefs and for creating positive, empowering new beliefs. You're going to see that as we demonstrate these processes. Now, the book and the video work together. There is lots more information in the book, and you'll need to read it in order to get a complete understanding of what we're doing. In this video, we're not explaining everything that we do in the detail that we do in the book. The purpose of the video is just to demonstrate the technique so you can see the tapping, and you can see it applied in a live, unscripted setting. You can watch the video first, or you can read the book first, or do it in sections. Just know that you're going to get the most out of this work when you've gone through both. I'm going to demonstrate the tapping points for you, and then we'll look at the simplest form of tapping. We'll deal in this video with 8 specific points. That's what you'll also use in the book. There are some other points outlined in the book, but 8 points plus the karate chop. That's all you'll need today. The first point that we'll work with is the top of the head. Now, if you draw an imaginary line over your ears to the top of your head, that's going to be the first tapping point.
Right there.
Right. Now, you can tap with either hand. Most people use their dominant hand, and I usually tap with my index and middle finger. Light tapping is fine. You don't get extra credit for heavy tapping. The next point is called the eyebrow point. It's right at the beginning of the eyebrow.
I like to do both sides with 2 fingers.
Oh, brilliant. I love that. Yeah, so you can do that.
3 Stooges.
That's right. The next point is called outside of the eye. It's right on the bony ridge in the middle. Yeah, so right here on the corner, right? Not all the way back on the temple, but right there. Right. The next point is called under the eye. And if you feel the bone, you'll actually feel a tiny notch right in the middle there. And that's where you want to tap, under the eye. The next point is called the under the nose point. It's between the nose and upper lip. And again, if you're tapping with 2 fingers, you're covering that whole area. Then the next point is the chin point, but it's not actually on the chin. So slide your fingers up to that indentation between the chin and lower lip. Okay? And then we have the collarbone point. This is a point that confuses a lot of people. If you put your hand on your throat, right where a man would knot his tie, you'll feel 2 bony protrusions right here. Go just outside and down from either one of them. Yeah. And I love to tap like this, again, to get both sides.
Yeah,
right
that's
there.
what I do, but I'll use 1 finger.
Yep.
And the thumb.
So you can see that there are a lot of different little variations, but the important thing is tap lightly on the points. The final point, under the arm, about 4 inches down from the armpit right here, You can, again, use one hand on one side of the body. You can do the monkey look if you want. And finally, in some of the processes, you're going to see me using the karate chop, the heel of the hand. You can tap right hand on left hand on right hand, either way. Now that you know the tapping points, the next thing you need to do is to look at how intense the feelings are that you're experiencing. So maybe you're annoyed thinking about that person who cut you off on the interstate, or you're mad at a family member, or maybe you're scared thinking about a proposal you need to make it work the next day. On a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is not even there anymore, and 10 is top intensity, how strong is that feeling? We call that the SUDS level, funny name. It stands for Subjective Units of Distress. And we use the SUDS level so we can measure our progress. Now remember, it is subjective. There's no right or wrong answer. It's how it appears to you. In the simplest form of tapping, we're going to combine tapping lightly on these points with making some statements. You're going to be giving voice to how you're feeling, and it might sound pretty negative. I always tell my clients, the only time you get to say all those negative things, blaming, complaining, sounds like gossiping, is when you're tapping.
You know, one of the things I've learned is you can't get rid of something by pretending it's not there. It's like one of my friends used the metaphor, if you're driving in your car and the gas tank's on empty, you can't just put a happy smiley face over the gas tank and pretend it's not on empty. You have to deal with the fact that you're running out of gas. And so the same thing is true here, that you have to give yourself permission to feel the anger, feel the fear. This is not a moment for positive thinking. It's allowing whatever it is that's in there that's blocking you or that you want to get rid of, whether it's physical or emotional or mental, to come up and get acknowledged that it's there. And then we can tap it so it disappears. You know, one of the reasons we write down your SUDS level, how strong the emotion is on a scale of 1 to 10, is that when you're starting with it, sometimes we find that it drops so fast that you forget it was even a serious issue. In fact, this happens often enough that in tapping that we even have a name for it. It's called the apex problem. Because you'll see people where they'll tap and then you'll go, oh, well, I wasn't angry. And they can't even remember it. It's disappeared. So by having that number, we can go back and realize you dropped from an 8 to a 0. And as I said, it happens so fast, sometimes we don't even realize how fast it is. In fact, they're going to see that in some of the demos that we have on this video.
Yeah, it's really extraordinary. Now, if you're so scared that you're shaking with fear, literally, or you're so mad that you're seeing red, you can just start tapping without noticing your SUDS level. But if you're working on something you're a bit calmer about, you're really going to want to make a note of this so you can track your progress. Another thing to be aware of is that many issues are made up of 2 or more thoughts or beliefs or emotions. We call these aspects in tapping. So when you're measuring your SUDS level, you want to be clear about what aspect you're working on. Are you angry or are you hurt? Well, if you're angry, are you angry about what he said, or are you angry that he didn't apologize for what he said? Now, these are different aspects. You want to make sure that you tap on each one of them, and you'll see this in the demonstrations. Sometimes when you're tapping and it feels like your SUDS level hasn't changed at all, it's because you've cleared one aspect, but another one has taken its place. So when you notice that shift, you'll be able to clear all the parts or aspects of a problem, and you'll really have the clarity that brings that ultimate success.
You know, one of the great advantages of tapping is what's called borrowing benefits. This means that if you're in a group or you're watching a video like this one, and you tap along with the demonstration, person up on stage or the person you're going to see on the video next, even if your issue isn't the same as the one that's being worked on, you may very well get relief on your issue. So if you've already become aware of an issue or an upset that you'd like to clear with simple tapping, we'll invite you to tap along with our tapping volunteer, even if your issue is different from hers.
When I'm working with someone as a practitioner, I'll usually make statements and ask the other person to repeat after me. Because I want to show you how to do this on your own, I'm going to prompt Maricela with the kind of things that she might say and mostly let her do this exercise herself. So a little word of warning here, and we talked about the negative already. People who are accustomed to personal growth work are going to resist saying the negative, or they'll try to distance themselves from their emotions, saying something like, I have this anger towards my boss, or have this anger towards another person. These are words that actually separate us from the emotions, and in order for tapping to be effective, you want to tune into the emotions. So don't try to be grown up about it. Instead of saying, I have this anger towards my boss, say something like, my boss is a jerk. And let those phrases get you in touch. Now, you're going to see, actually, at one point, Maricela says, "Can I cuss?" And I was just about to give her permission to do that when she went on without that. I want to let you know that sometimes, in order to get your emotions tuned in, you're going to use language that you might not use in another situation.
Well, I
That's
always
okay.
say, you know, if you normally swear when you're talking and you feel like swearing in this, go ahead. If you don't normally swear, you don't have to make it up. Just
Right.
do what's normal.
Exactly
Yeah.
right. In this first demonstration, where we're working with Maricela, Maricela had an issue with her mother-in-law. She was angry with her for breaking a commitment. When Maricela's husband went off to Afghanistan, she was expecting certain things from her mother-in-law. So you see her very, very angry. And then just a few moments later, you see her enter a completely new emotional state of compassion for her mother-in-law. And the interesting thing is, this anger, although it was a specific event we were working on, has to do with 20 years of a relationship with this woman. So the change is actually very profound. And I want to encourage you, as you watch this demonstration, to recognize how gentle the shift is. You know, we usually think that transformation like this has to be accompanied by jumping up and down and cheering and huge emotional turmoil. And in all of these demonstrations, people go from very intense negative emotions to relief. And it's very easy and very, very subtle, and yet very significant at the same time.
No, it's because you're a master, and these techniques are very powerful.
They are very powerful. Let's watch what happens when we work with Maricela. Let's do the simple tapping now. It's really good for removing an irritation, an anger, an upset, or a fear. And all we want to do is see if we can drop that intensity. Now, you had mentioned that you had an upset with your mother-in-law, I think. Can you just give me a sentence or two about that so we know what you're working on?
She had told my husband when he left to Afghanistan that she would be there to help, and she didn't.
Ah, okay. Yeah. So I can
Well,
see.
she came for a day, and then she couldn't handle, so she left.
Okay. All right. So you were in an expectation of help,
Right.
and you thought there was a commitment to help, and then it wasn't there.
No, wasn't.
Okay. So when you think about that situation, what's the emotion you feel?
I feel angry.
Okay. And 0 to 10, how strong is that anger? Like right now in this moment.
Right now.
And if you think about
probably
it.
a 7.
Okay. Yeah. And as we tap, it may go up, it may go down, as you tune in more to it, or as the tapping starts having effect, and that's okay. We always just want to measure from this moment. So right now.
I think I'm a 10.
Right
Because
now.
right now I just felt like, no, I'm
Right now, if
angry.
she was in front of you, you'd want to punch her or something. Okay, so let's work with that.
Okay.
Now, if you were doing this on your own, you'd be making all these statements up. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to get you started, and then I'm going to prompt you, but I really want you to take off. This isn't something where I'm going to feed you what to say. I want you to do it, okay?
Okay.
All right. So tap the top of the head and just talk to me about how angry you are with her.
I'm angry, like why I'm angry?
Or I'm angry, what do you want? You'd like to punch her, you think she's wrong.
Okay.
What do you, like, if you could say anything to her with no repercussions, what would you be saying right now?
I would say, you're a weak, ignorant woman.
Okay. Next point. What else?
Why did you promise something you couldn't fulfill?
Great. Outside of the eye. What else?
You didn't affect me, but you affected my children.
Under the eye. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. What else? You're angry at her.
Am I allowed to use cuss words? No, I'm kidding.
Actually,
You're just a weak woman. You're stupid. You're ignorant.
under the nose. If you were on the phone talking to a friend and complaining, I know you don't usually complain, what would you say? This is the one time when
Okay.
you're allowed to complain because you're tapping.
I can't believe she did that to us.
On the chin. Good, go on.
I can't believe she made a commitment she couldn't fulfill, something so important when I needed her.
Collarbone. What else?
My children don't respect her.
Under the arm.
It was a time I needed someone and she wasn't there.
The emotion isn't anger anymore, is it? And that's okay. Keep going. Keep going. Tap the head. If you can't talk, just keep tapping, and that's all right.
I deserve that help.
Eyebrows. What's the emotion now? Is it anger or is it something else?
I feel abandoned and unloved.
Outside of the eye.
Why'd you do that to me? Why'd you do that to my kids?
Under the eye. Good.
I'm angry at my husband that he didn't have the guts to call her and tell her something and tell her how upset we were.
Tap under the nose. Okay.
I wish I would have called her and told her off, and I didn't. And so I feel almost angry at myself that I didn't do that, and I still haven't.
Okay. Tap on the chin. So now we've got a lot of different issues going now, and that's okay. I'm going to pull you back to your mother-in-law, because sometimes what happens when we're working is that the anger at one person or the emotion drops, and then we recognize that there are other things, like I'm angry at my husband, I'm angry at myself. So if you go back to your mother-in-law, is it still a 10 with her, or is it more about other things now?
It's more about how she abandoned us.
Okay.
I think I feel this abandonment from her.
Okay, tap the collarbone. And how do you feel?
I feel like I've been her daughter-in-law for 20 years, that she should have done more.
Okay. Tap under the arm. Tell her that.
I've done a lot for you, and you didn't do anything for me. And you haven't done anything for me.
Tap the top of your head. And how do you feel about that?
I feel betrayed, or like she doesn't think that I'm worthy of her help.
And, okay, so right now what we've got is a bigger issue.
Okay.
It's not just about she didn't come after my husband left.
Okay.
It's now 20 years. Yeah. Can you feel the difference?
Yeah.
And that's not right or wrong. That's not bad. It's just you want to understand and notice all the different aspects of an issue, because sometimes when you start working on one, you can collapse that one, but if there are others, you need to finish with those as well.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So go back to she didn't keep her promise about helping after he left. And is it still a 10? Is it still anger?
I feel like a 6 about her not being there.
Okay. Tap the eyebrow. And what's the 6 made up of? What's that emotion behind the 6?
More of her being so weak and just couldn't handle.
Tap the outside of the eye. What's the emotion that comes when you are looking at her and saying you're so weak? What's that emotion?
I wish I could help her.
That doesn't feel like anger.
No.
Okay, tap under the eye. So what's that 6? Is it still a 6?
I feel 5.
Okay. Tap under the nose. What's the 5 made up of?
She'll never change, and that's who she is. And I can't expect more.
Tap on the chin. And what's the emotion behind that? She'll never change. I can't expect more.
I kind of feel sad because she's not there for us.
You see where you started with a 10 in anger, and now we're in a 5 in sadness. Things, not only has the number shifted, but the subject, the emotion has as well. Okay? Tap on the collarbone. What else would you say about that sadness?
She's not going to be there. She's sad that I can't rely on her when I need something.
Tap under the arm. And again, that's a bigger issue. It's not just, this is the whole thing of your relationship with her, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now you've gone from anger to sad. Right.
I kind of feel compassion now, like I feel sorry for her.
Mm-hmm. Tap the top of the head, yeah. So where's the anger? Is around this incident? Is there anger left?
No, I feel compassion.
Okay.
I
Stop
feel
tapping. Take a deep breath. So that's just simple tapping, because there's so much more that we can do with it. Okay. We can go into a reframe, we can do some belief change, we can look at how to make an empowering belief and use some of the other techniques for that. Also, you're going to want to look at the other aspects that you mentioned. The anger at your husband for not talking to her, possible anger for yourself at not stepping up and saying, you know, I really need this help. Okay. Those are aspects that you would also want to tap on and work through. But for now, you started with a 10 anger at your mother-in-law, and now you feel compassion.
I do. I feel like hugging her.
That's extraordinary work. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good for you.
Thanks.
I think there's two other aspects that are in there too. One is this issue of abandonment. I don't think this is the first time you felt that in your life. Yeah. So she brings that back up in you.
She does.
And then the unworthiness that I deserve support underneath that. And then you can step up and look to other people than your mother-in-law to get that support. Definitely. So those are other aspects that also can be tapped on.
Awesome. Brilliant. Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks. Thank you.
In order for tapping to be most effective, it's important to get specific about what you're tapping on. If you try to tap on, for example, I'm a failure, you won't get the results that you may be looking for because it's too global.
Think of your belief like a belief that you're a failure, or any belief, as a tabletop. It's held up by legs of individual beliefs or events that have led you to that global belief. Perhaps you had to repeat a grade in school, or you failed at a work project, or you didn't get into a college that you wanted to. All of those together, all of those events together, will make up the table called I'm a failure. So instead of tapping on the tabletop, what you do is you tap on and eliminate the legs under the table. Sometimes you just have to eliminate 2 or 3, sometimes you have to eliminate a dozen, but then the table actually collapses. Eliminating the table legs is the only way to really ensure that the tabletop collapses. If you just try to instill another empowering belief on top, what you end up with is a table with a new top, but the same table is still there underneath.
Table with a nice tablecloth.
That's right. That's right. So just affirming your limiting belief isn't true is not going to give you a true new set of beliefs. So we'll demonstrate more about this idea of getting specific in just a minute.
You know, one of the things I learned over the years is we have files inside, like your table. A file might say low self-esteem, and there's lots of documents in that file. So another way to think about this is you can't just throw the whole file away. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
But you have to deal with enough of the individual documents and either remove those or replace them with positive documents that say, oh, wow, I might have had this failure. Like I got cut from the basketball team when I was in school. Judy Graham decided not to go out with me when I was a senior. And I can have a lot of documents in there that say, wow, I'm a loser. But if you take those documents and remove them and you replace them with positive documents, then what happens is I get a new file that says, wow, I have high self-esteem.
Beautiful. Now, as powerful as simple tapping is, eliminating the negative sometimes causes a void. What you were saying about you need to put positive documents in the file. Sometimes you just get confused when that negative goes away. So what we're going to do is introduce a powerful new part of tapping. It's called the setup statement. We can take those negative statements, the events or table legs of your limiting belief, we turn them into the first part of your setup statement. So the format that we do this is even though, and then the problem. So even though I'm embarrassed that I had to repeat a grade in school. That might be an example of the negative. And then the second part is this positive affirmation. Now, original EFT, emotional freedom techniques, which is how many people came to learn about tapping, has a particular affirmation. It's this: I deeply and completely love and accept myself. So when we put those two together, we've got a complete setup statement. Even though I'm embarrassed I had to repeat a grade in school, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Now that we've got that setup statement crafted, we're going to repeat it 3 times while tapping on our new point, our karate chop point on the heel of the hand. This affirmation is particularly good if you're feeling bad or guilty about something. It's not one we'll use as much when you're angry about someone else, but it's very good when you're upset at yourself. We'll use it to transcend a limiting belief. We're going to do this right now with Steve. We really enjoyed working with Steve. He had a limiting belief about himself that he was stupid because of the specific event that had happened a few years ago. And what you're going to see is how when we collapse that one event, he undergoes a pretty dramatic change in that limiting belief.
Very dramatic to me.
Mm-hmm. And I had the privilege of communicating with Steve a few weeks after this was filmed. And what he said was, it's held. He said it came up twice, and he said I did a couple of minutes of tapping, and it went away again, and I feel great. So let's watch this really dramatic change with Steve.
Steve, when we originally talked about doing this, you indicated that there were some things in your past that you were upset at yourself for, that, some financial decisions you had made or something like that. So can you give us a sentence or two? Because I'd like to help you remove that upset with yourself. Would that be good?
Yes.
Great. Okay.
Well, the one that I had mentioned was that we, a couple of years ago, our house was worth a lot more than it is now, as a lot of people are in that same position. But I had come up with the thought of either possibly paying it off with the savings that we had, or selling it and then buying another one cheaper, or buying it back cheaper. And I didn't do that. I didn't feel, I guess, strongly enough or confident enough in myself to go ahead and do that.
Okay. And how do you feel about that now?
I'm trying to come to terms with that and trying to use it as more of a learning experience if I'm ever in that position again, or something like that. If I feel strongly, then I need to be confident enough to move forward with that.
Now, that's a really adult way to look at this, and if you've already made that reframe, then you're probably good on this. But what I'm asking you is, in the dark night, when you're lying awake in bed, what do you really, are you really okay with this, or does it still bother you?
No, I have, I think, an issue of, intellectually, I know that is true, but like you're saying, in the dark of night, when I can't fall back to sleep or whatever, then those feelings come back, and they are hard to get rid of.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you, in the interest of actually clearing them for good, to go ahead and allow yourself to access them right now.
Okay.
Okay, so I want you to drop into that emotional feeling that you've been trying to push away, because the truth is, as we try to push it away, it doesn't really go anywhere. So when you look at that, tell me about the feelings about that. What do you say to yourself? How do you feel about that?
I feel, at some level, I think I feel like it's a bad decision, like maybe I've let myself down, let my family down. It's also hard because I'm in finance, and so I feel like, I should have known better.
Yeah, and when you said that, it seems to me that actually that's the key to it, that you're beating yourself up on 2 levels. One is something that a lot of people might feel, I wish I'd made a better decision about my house 3 years ago, but another is, I should really know better because I'm in finance, right?
Right.
Okay, and so when you think that, what do you feel? And don't be politically correct on this, okay?
No, I think I just, with everyone talking about it and family and friends and everything, I think I just kind of feel like, because I haven't really told anyone that, it's been sort of something I've kept inside, so kind of like a fraud or a phony.
Yeah. How strong is that feeling, 0 to 10?
9 or 10.
Yeah. Would you like to let go of that?
Yes, I would.
Yeah. I appreciate your vulnerability and being brave in this. Okay, so I need a statement about that really expresses this. I feel like a fraud or a phony because, or I'm angry at myself because. Can you give me that? Say
Sure.
it.
I am angry at myself because I did not make the right decision.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll just know that that encompasses everything you just described. I'm angry at myself because I didn't make the right decision. Okay. And that anger is at a 9 or 10 right now.
That's 9.
Okay, perfect. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to use the original EFT affirmation. I deeply and completely love and accept myself. So let me ask you a question. Can you say that right now and feel it? And actually feel it emotionally. Even though I'm angry at myself because I made a bad decision, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Is that something that you think you could say?
I can say it. I don't know if I'll feel it 100% right off the bat. But.
Okay. The other thing is we can modify that affirmation a little bit, like I want to deeply and completely accept myself, or I'd like to deeply and completely accept myself, if those would feel like something that would allow you to get into that. So let's do that. Okay. Even though I'm angry at myself because I made a poor decision.
Even though I'm angry at myself because I made a poor decision.
I'd like to deeply and completely love and accept myself.
I'd like to deeply and completely love and accept myself.
Even though I am angry at myself because I made a poor decision.
Even though I'm angry at myself because I made a poor decision.
How could I be that stupid?
How could I be that stupid?
I'd like to find a way to love and accept myself.
I'd like to find a way to love and accept myself.
Even though I'm really angry at myself.
Even though I'm really angry at myself.
I don't like to admit it.
I don't like to admit it.
And I haven't told anybody.
And I haven't told anybody.
I feel like a phony and a fraud.
I feel like a phony and a fraud.
I'd like to find a way to love and accept myself.
I'd like to find a way to love and accept myself.
I'm really angry at myself.
I'm really angry at myself.
Tap the eyebrow point, Stephen. Tell me what you would say to yourself if you weren't with friends and family.
I think what I've been telling myself is how could you be so dumb? Why couldn't you have made a better decision?
Okay. Outside of the eye. How could you be so dumb?
How could I be so dumb?
Under the eye. How could I be so dumb?
How could I be so dumb?
Under the nose. I wish I'd made a better decision.
I wish I made a better decision.
On the chin. How could I be so dumb?
How could I be so dumb?
Collarbone. How could I be so dumb?
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 Tap the top of the head. You're angry. What else do you want to say with that anger? What else expresses it?
Just probably like, why couldn't I have been smart enough to have made a better decision like some people did that I know?
Eyebrows. Why couldn't I have been smart enough?
Why couldn't I have been smart enough?
Why couldn't I have been smart enough to make a better, outside of the eye, why couldn't I have been smart enough to make a better decision?
Why couldn't I have been smart enough to make a better decision?
Under the eye. Why couldn't I have been smart enough?
Why couldn't I have been smart enough?
Under the nose. Why couldn't I have been smart enough?
Why couldn't I have been smart enough?
On the chin. Why couldn't I have been smart enough?
Why couldn't I have been smart enough?
Collarbone. Why did I have to be so dumb?
Why did I have to be so dumb?
Under the arm. Why did I have to be so dumb?
Why did I have to be so dumb?
Okay. Stop tapping for a second. Take a deep breath. And look at that anger. Is it still a 10? It's okay if it is.
No.
What is it now?
It's 7.
Okay. Good job.
Thank you.
We're starting to bring it down now. Tell me a little more about the 7, because sometimes it's the same. How could I be so dumb? Why didn't I make a better decision? And sometimes the words shift as the levels change. Is it still the same or not?
No, I think it's still the same, but there's more of a maybe a little slightly different feeling, that maybe that same feeling that I'm not smart enough, not just with this one thing, but in general, or good enough.
Great. Okay, appreciate that. Because often something like this, we take this one event as evidence for a greater belief system, right? We say that I have a belief, I'm just not smart enough, I'm not good enough in general, and here's the proof right here.
Right.
So actually, but if you want to change that whole belief of this is, I'm not good enough or I'm not smart enough, this is actually the way to do it. You want to go after those individual events that we call them the legs of the table, that are holding up that tabletop called I'm not smart enough. So going after these individual events is a great thing to do. So let's...
The other thing that jumped out at me while you're talking to, and you said, like other people I know, like they made the right decision, but I didn't. That
Right.
comparison is part of what's got you.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So let's see if we can drop that 7 a little bit.
Okay.
Tap here. Even though I'm still angry at myself,
Even though I'm still angry at myself,
I'd like to find a way to love and accept myself.
I'd like to find a way to love and accept myself.
Even though I'm still angry at myself,
Even though I'm still angry at myself,
I might be open to finding a way to love and accept myself.
I might be open to finding a way to love and accept myself.
Even though I'm still angry at myself,
Even though I'm still angry at myself,
because I made poor decisions,
because I made poor decisions.
dumb decisions,
Dumb decisions.
and not as smart as other people.
And not as smart as other people.
I'm open to finding a way to love and accept myself.
I'm open to find a way to love and accept myself.
I'm still angry at myself.
I'm still angry at myself.
Don't expect me to give this up in 10 minutes.
Don't expect me to give this up in 10 minutes.
I made a really stupid decision.
I made a really stupid decision.
Other people have made much better decisions.
Other people have made much better decisions.
This is just more evidence.
This is just more evidence.
I make dumb decisions.
I make dumb decisions.
I know this about myself.
I know this about myself.
I make dumb decisions.
I make dumb decisions.
And this was one of them.
And this was one of them.
And I'm angry at myself for that.
And I'm angry at myself for that.
Because I want to be smarter.
Because I want to be smarter.
I'm still angry at myself.
I'm still angry at myself.
I wonder
I wonder
if it might be possible
if it might be possible
that anyone who learns from something
that anyone who learns from something
actually isn't that stupid.
actually isn't that stupid.
I'm certainly learning from this.
I'm certainly learning from this.
Okay, take a deep breath. Is it still a 7?
No.
What is it?
3 or 4.
Okay.
Yeah, saying it out loud, it actually sounds a little silly.
Because you are actually pretty smart, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. What would you like to believe instead?
That I made the best decision I could at the time.
Yeah. That actually seems like it touches you, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Appreciate your courage. Okay, that's down. Even though part of me still thinks it was a dumb decision,
Even though part of me still thinks it was a dumb decision,
and I want to beat myself up
and I want to beat myself up
to make sure I never do it again.
to make
You don't have to say it, just keep tapping. I'd love to love and accept myself. Even though part of me still thinks I made a dumb decision.
Even though part of me still thinks I made a dumb decision,
I'm open to the possibility
I'm open to the possibility
that I could learn to love and accept myself.
that I could learn to love and accept myself.
Because I might have made the best decision I could at the time.
Because I might have made the best decision I could at the time.
Even though there's a part of me that's still angry.
Even though there's a part of me that's still angry.
I'd like to love and accept myself.
I'd like to love and accept myself.
Because I did the best I could in the time.
Because I did the best I